Shaheen Gabati is a nuclear engineer and a member of the National Council of Resistance of Iran. We're talking about elder abuse, Mullah style, what Iran is doing to people in their own country. Shaheen, welcome back.
Thank you for having me, Fawn, and I hope you have had a good day, and I hope you will have nice days and weeks ahead during the summertime.
Yeah, it's so beautiful here right now, 70 degrees fair. It's perfect. So,
I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, we're happy to, and same to you too. All right, so I don't understand. I don't understand Islam. I've read the Quran twice, and both times that I've read it, I'm very, very confused by how it can be perceived as anything but not okay. And the actions of the people in Iran who are in charge just kind of perpetuate the idea of what I had while I was reading. And tell the audience what they do when they just level up on political prisoners. They seem to feel like they're not human.
Well, actually, first of all, I'm a practicing Muslim, but obviously profoundly and vehemently opposed to what this regime does under the name of Islam. It has nothing to do with Islam and its spirit. Islam is a religion of compassion, mercy, tolerance, coexistence, fraternity. Actually, what these people do in the name of Islam, all this extremism, torture, execution, terrorism, has nothing to do with this religion. So we're, basically exploiting it for their political purposes, and that's the whole essence. And one has to keep in mind that the main victims of this regime have been Muslims. The main Iranian resistance movement, the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran, are also Muslims, but diametrically opposed to the regime in terms of their view of Islam. They represent a tolerant Islam, a modern Islam, a progressive Islam in which women are, equal as men, not the way that regime, which is misogynist, treats women. So that has to be cleared, and as a result of this, more than 120,000 Iranians, some as young as 13-year-old teenage girls, have been executed simply for standing up against this regime and what it has done under the name of Islam, and first and foremost to the Muslims themselves, and not only limited in Iran, but throughout the whole Muslim world. I mean, the way this regime has supported, nurtured terrorist groups, one has to keep in mind that the main victims, again, are Muslims throughout the whole Middle East and Islamic world.
So, yeah, and Jews and Americans and a lot of other people. And I don't mean to offend your religion, but I've literally read the book, and they do this stuff because they're yelling Allah Akbar half the time when they're attacking. And that, to me, is a religious saying. And I get confused by, there are so many people who say it's a peaceful religion, but then we see so much of those who take it verbatim and murder in the name of it. So it's very confusing.
Of course, but as I said, one has to keep in mind that that's a regime that supports this, and that's what we are resisting and fighting in Iran to get rid of, and not only bring back Iran to the community of nations as a modern, civilized, forward-looking country, but also, as I said, get the whole Muslim world rid of this regime, which is using all the resources of the state to continue and perpetrate all these crimes under the name of Islam. And if, in one word, if I say, the biggest enemy of Islam is this regime and all these actions which are done under the name of Islam. So that should be very clear. Now, what they do to the dissidents, obviously, they're very brutal and ruthless, especially because the dissent is growing. Just last Sunday, 2 activists belonging to the main Iranian resistance movement, one of them, which is a 70-year-old man, 70, were hanged on the charges of an enmity to God and all of this nonsense that the regime labels the dissidents to, simply because they wanted freedom and democracy. So the dissent is growing. The Iranian people are standing up and are paying the very, very heavy price. And as we speak, there are at least 14 others who belong to the same movement, the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran, a modern, forward-looking, tolerant Muslim movement, who are on death row as we speak, and they face the very sad prospect of being hanged any moment. So yes, there's growing dissent, and the regime's response has been simply more and more repression, because their enemy, number one, are the Iranian people who are crying for freedom, and not only they're crying, but they're standing up to the regime, and they pay the ultimate price. They are being, as I said, hanged, and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens others have been arrested in the past few weeks, because as the regime is getting weaker at home, at the same time it's getting more vicious because they fear that the end is coming soon.
Well, and you know what? They should fear it, because even with what's going on with Hamas, I think people go along with stuff out of pure fear of the people who are evil with stuff like this. And so hanging a 70-year-old man after you torture him, how does anyone in their right mind see that as okay?
Obviously nobody does, except the regime's henchmen, who, as I said, realize that the tide has turned against them in a big way. And that's why a lot of young people are now joining the resistance. Actually, in the last week or so after these hangings, the walls of Iran, many graffitis, many big banners and posters have been set up in memory of these two fallen, and people saying that they are not yielding and they are standing up even stronger to the regime. So this adds impetus to the people's will and desire to stand up. So the essence is this. The resistance is brewing inside Iran. More and more people from all walks of life and all age groups are joining. Some of them are paying the ultimate price, but that's how the change will come in Iran. Not by foreign war, not by appeasement, but by the Iranian people standing up with the organized resistance at the forefront. And that's what we want the international community to realize, that they should be on the side of these people and on the side of the Iranian resistance. Actually, last week, we had a big conference, international conference in Rome, in which Madam Maryam Rajavi, R-A-J-A-V-I, who leads the Iranian resistance, spoke again, calling for the same policy by the West and United States, to recognize the right of the Iranian people and to organize resistance to bring about change by the people, for the people, to put an end to all of these crimes under the name of Islam, which is enmity against all civilized world, first and foremost the Iranian people themselves.
So why do you think it has caught on like a wildfire in the U.S. to support the violence?
Well, I think the problem has been that the Iranian situation for years and years, unfortunately, has been construed, and I should say misconstrued, as being binary, that you either go to war with this regime or you have to appease them. And that's what the regime's proponents and appeasers have advocated for years. And our view is that no, there's a third option. Neither appeasement nor a foreign war is a solution. There's a good chance and potential for regime change by the Iranian people that will put an end to all the violence, that will put an end to all this chaos. One has to keep in mind that the metropole of the violence and terrorism and the chaos in the whole Middle East is this regime in Tehran. From its infancy, from its inception, it has perpetuated this concept of violence against the Iranian people and beyond Iranian borders. And we think until this regime is gone, we will not see an end to this. So that's what we are striving for, and actually that's our message, that the time has come for change in Iran, and this has never been any closer than this. The regime has never been any weaker, the people have never been more determined, and now is the moment to stand on the side of the resistance.
So, do you think President Trump gets some kudos for this?
I think President Trump's maximum pressure policy is the right policy. It's a policy in the right direction for strangling the regime's financial resources and financial lifeline, because any money that this regime gets from selling Iranian oil and gas and all sorts of things only finances this terror at home, to stipend the regime's henchmen inside the country, and to finance its terrorists abroad, again, which carry out this kind of terror and mayhem under the name of Islam. So yes, the maximum pressure policy of basically stifling the regime's financial resources is a very good step in the right direction, but it should take another step to recognize the right of the Iranian people and the organized resistance to bring about change in Iran, to overthrow this regime by the Iranian people, for the Iranian people. Mm-hmm. As Madam Mariam Rajavi again last week said at the big conference in Italy, in Rome, we do not seek boots on the ground. It's not necessary. There's no need for American taxpayers' money. There's no need for American weapons. All Iranian people and the resistance is asking is for the U.S. and the West in general to stand up on the side of the Iranian people and the organized resistance, and to adopt a policy that recognizes the right of the Iranian people and the resistance to get rid of this regime. And I think that's a policy that every good American can identify with.
I think so too. And if you remember Abu Ghraib and all the things that, they said, oh, look what the Americans did to these poor people, blah, 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 blah. I didn't agree with some of the behavior and the taking of pictures of dead people stacked up, stuff like that. I didn't like that at all. And, one bad apple did not spoil the whole bag of tricks here. But if anyone is standing up for Iran right now, it is America, not just with the cluster bombs and taking out the nuclear facilities. They'll be back, but we'll come for them too. But President Trump is working very, very hard to try to help the Iranian people. Do they even know that?
Of course they know what's going on in the world, and the regime imposes very, very tough censorship, but the Iranian resistance provides means for the people to find out. And the Iranian people actually are very, very outwardly. They follow international news. They break the censorship by all sorts of ways, by VPNs. They basically get access to internet. And through the satellite TV that the Iranian resistance has, and the people tune in, millions of them throughout the country. And that's how they get also information to the resistance. Okay. So yes, they are fully aware of what's going on. And that's why they think, and they, I think, rightly demand that the world, and here in particular the United States you're talking about, to be on their side, morally and politically. Again, I have to emphasize, nobody is asking for American taxpayer money. Nobody is asking for American weapons. Nobody has ever called for American boots on the grounds. That's not what is necessary, that's not what we have been calling for, and that's not what we will be calling for. But at the same time, we think for the sake of the whole world, for the security of the United States, for the whole world, and first and foremost, for the betterment of the Iranian, it's a very sound policy to stand up on the side of the Iranian people and the organized resistance and explicitly recognize their right to bring about a regime change by themselves, for themselves.
And do they have a plan to do that? I'm running out of time, but I support them 1,000%. I mean, there's no such thing as anything over 100%, but if there were, I'd go 1,000%. I want them to be free, like they were. They got a taste of it in the 70s. They want it back.
Actually, in the 70s, when the Shah was there, the previous dictatorship, he was also a despot, but he was a modern despot. He was a killer, but he was a modern killer. These guys in power are medieval tyrants. So we want something much better and democracy in the true sense of the word. Yes, this is within reach. That's our message. This is very doable. There's an viable alternative in the National Council of Resistance of Iran. It has an identifiable leader in a woman called Madam Mariam Rajavi. It has a 10-point plan for transition. So everything is there. So all we're asking the world is to recognize it and take sides on the side of the Iranian people and the resistance. Go to your congressman, go to your senator, go to the media, to this talk show, and things like this, and ask them to echo this voice and to be on side.
Well, you just got heard by tens of thousands of people, and I think everyone listening supports the freedom of the Iranian people so that they don't get tortured in unspeakable ways and then hung by the mullahs because they are a political opponent. It's crazy to me what they do to people over there. They treat them worse than cattle. It's crazy. So where do people go to learn more, Shaheen?
They go to our website. It's called ncr-iran.org. N like Nancy, C like Charlie, R like Rose, NCR. That stands for National Council of Resistance, ncr-iran.org. That's our website. Or they can go to Maryam, M-A-R-Y-A-M, Rajavi, R-A-J-A-V-I.org. That's the website of Madam Mariam Rajavi, the President-elect of the National Council of Resistance of Iran. And that's where you get to see news about Iran that you don't see anywhere else.
And everyone needs to go there and learn what's going on in Iran, not just from what the national media puts out, because they are just another arm of the propaganda of the mullahs. Shaheen Gabati is a nuclear engineer and member of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, wanting freedom for all of the people who are sick and tired of the mullahs. Shaheen, thank you.
Thank you for having me again.